Street Fighter League is in the air. Of course, we have Street Fighter League United States just recently starting up. Street Fighter League EU just started up. And then, of course, Japan has been going for a few weeks now. For today, Brian, I want to make sure I focus on United States and EU. Let's start right here at our crib.
Yeah.
The first fire storyline of Street Fighter League for me for episode 1. Of course, there's been 2 episodes of each of these so far. I would say that it has to be. Look, I'm going to say Punk versus Minuteman.
What?
I love that personally.
What?
Panda going up against Nasser Bandits. Nasser Bandits definitely the favorite on paper there, and the most fascinating thing was the match where Minute is up 2-0 against Punk, playing Luke versus Karen, and in the end of the day, it looks like, all right, it's all over for Punk. What happened to the Alpha? My man goes and switches to Luke himself. He starts cooking Minute up. He's talking crazy in between every single game. Luke, I'm carried now too. All of that disrespectful. Wins 3 straight. At some point, Brian, I saw Minute specifically go and say, wait a minute. He turns to his team like, yeah, I mean, he's like, I'm calm. Like, it is what it is. Like, it's just, I tried to DP and it didn't come out. I tried to do my thing and it didn't, but it's fine.
It doesn't bother
At
me,
that
though.
point, it's over.
I'm not upset, but I'm just saying.
I'm not
I
mad,
didn't put it in
but
the thing and it didn't happen,
That's what you know you're about to lose. Shout out to Minute, but yeah, that was dope for me.
We've all been there. Honestly, dude, it's unfair. When Punk picks your character at the character select screen, it is the biggest mental buff for him and debuff for you. It's just absolutely unfair. I don't think there's anyone else on the planet who's better at picking your own character and then beating your ass with him. Like, I've been in that position against Punk actually a number of times, and I'm always like, oh man, he hasn't got me with the ROG mirror. He tried that on me once, but he's gotten me with like every other mirror attempted. So like, I've been in that seat, and you hate to see it, but he's done that time and time again in Street Fighter League.
I think that extra tinge of like disrespect just heightens him up. Like if he gets to disrespect somebody, I feel like his senses honestly, overall heighten.
You always want to come from the underdog position, and I feel like as Punk, he's been the top dog for so long. I think the way he positions himself to be the underdog, because that is a huge mental advantage. If you've ever been on the come up, like there's a point where like you stop being the underdog and start being the favorite, and then at that point, that's when the pressure's really on, and that's when you can see your performance tank. Punk goes for the mirror match. If he loses, hey man, it's your main. I should lose. Wait, you're losing to me right now? What's going on, man? This is your character.
Yep.
Oh, dirty. But that was a great moment. But I got to say, for that episode, I'm going to be a little bit biased here. I got to go with, of course, Team CLG. My own team, my sponsor there, going up over Endemic. And I feel like this is like David and the Goliath here, right here. Yeah. And going up against Endemic, we have IDOM, we have Shine, we have Knuckledew, and we have GamerB. Oh, what? But that squad is ridiculous, right? We have 2 Capcom Cup champions, Evo finalists, and Shine, one of the most dominant players in USA for a long time, going up against Team CLG. Firepower-wise, they're outnumbered. They're outgunned. Let's be real here. Very strong, promising team of up-and-coming players, and, Samurai and Christy CH, very steady, consistent players in USA, but they're outgunned here. But, man, this team battle goes down to the wire and almost ended with just a blowout from CLG. Jack goes 2-1 over Shine, super clutch set. Samurai 2 over GamerB, not even having to pull out the Samurai X Factor, the number 1 clutch god of Street Fighter League. He just wins nice and easy over GamerB. Chris CCH almost wins 3-2 over IDOM in the anchor position. It comes down to a clutch comeback from IDOM there.
And IDOM does double dash crouch light kick. That's why, like,
the most IDOM thing possible.
You win in the most annoying way sometimes. Like, stop winning like that. He do all
he's
this
like, wait a minute,
solid, perfect stuff, and then
you're human.
Yeah,
like, at the very end, he's like, you're more human than I am. I'm a robot. You're human. And at the end, he wakes up with the jab and it connects to a full combo, or he triple double dashes out of nowhere, and you're not ready for it because you're human and he's not. Right, so IDOM does IDOM things, takes it over Chris DCH. That makes the set tied. Comes down to the first 2-1 sudden death. We send up Chris DCH. IDOM goes back up, and Chris DCH finishes it with a dominant final round, showing why he's a confident killer in the game, showing why he's not one of the best in the US. He's one of the best in the world, I think, at this point. Contender for top 8 at Evo, losing out just a kid in the last pixel for top 8. And big first win for Team CLG, so I'm happy to see that, taking over Endemic. Endemic, who I think was everybody's favorite. So definitely shaking up the storyline right from the get-go.
Well, Brian, someone that shook me up a bit and shook up the world with the announcement that he was even going to be on Street Fighter League is none other than Knuckle Dudang. Of course, he's been away from the game for an extremely long time. He also finally had his first match. He lost his first match. He lost to Big Bird, but that match in general, Endemic and Nasser Bandits, I feel like that's something where it can easily be, that can be considered the top 2 teams on paper in all of Street Fighter League.
Easy.
You know, I think for me, those guys in UYU, I think are all right there in the same conversation, but I can see Endemic and Nasser. And then finally at the end you had Adam against Angry Bird. Adam clutches out because of course he's him. It's Zeku and Poison right there. But what was very surprising is that when it came down to sudden death at that point, because Adam got the 20 points to tie it up, it comes down to sudden death. You can send anyone up from Team Endemic. And all due respect, they made a shocking pick and sent Shine up over sending Dude or sending Adam back up. Like, I don't understand the theory. I don't understand the thinking there.
Maybe Idom was scarred from his last sudden death against Chris CCH, but it does seem like a surprising pick.
And maybe but maybe it's something where like you want to get your players warmed up early in the season. So like, hey man, let me show you, we trust you in this spot, so that if it
True.
comes down to,
there's plenty of strategic decisions going on behind these things, I'm sure, but usually the best strategy is to win. So one thing with Street Fighter League is I feel like we also tend to overcomplicate a lot of things with Street Fighter League. At the end of the day,
put the damn best player up.
At the end of the day, it's pretty simple. You win.
Win, get money, get accolades.
Right.
I agree. So yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights of that episode for me.
For sure. But leading up to the next episode, I feel like we're already off to a lot of upsets because by the sound of things, Endemic is 0-2 right now, which is shocking to me. Shocking. I would not. To me, I think they'll have the rest of the season. I'm predicting them to get a bunch more wins just based on the roster, like the ridiculous roster. But they're 0-2 right now, and I think to me that's the strongest team.
The way the points go, and I agree, but the way it goes this season, remember, it's not off of
point system, right?
Yeah, it's point system. So the fact that Adam is in that anchor spot and he's won both of his matches in that anchor spot, they're already down 20, and he's making it so that they're losing 20 to 25, 20 to 25 each time. So at least they're getting a good amount of points. But right now
it's still surprising. But that's a good.
Very surprising. They are 0-2.
That's good value to the format there. So it's not just all or nothing, right? So every win actually does matter in this format. You're contributing to your team's overall point spread for the season. So all your matches do actually add value. And speaking of adding value, I'm going to talk about the next upset, which was Red Rooster over UYU. And I think some character and some players adding a lot of value to their team. The big storyline here is it goes to the anchor position. Ajax Fidelity, which I feel like for most people will be the name they don't recognize when looking at Red Rooster. We have Mono, Smog, Hot Dog, all household names in the Street Fighter V scene at this point. Ajax Fidelity, he's kind of like the newer kid on the block from Puerto Rico. And in fact, I knew about Ajax Fidelity for a while because Mono would always bring him to events in the past year or so. And he'd be like, oh, you should play this guy, or like he would be like showing him to all the players, and like, hey,
so
play my boy here, like check him out. And his Ed, I haven't had a chance to play him personally, but I've seen his sets in person at all these events over 2021, 2022. He was always doing tons of work, beating top players left and right. I feel like a lot of the action has happened off stream, so I wouldn't fault anyone at home who might not have heard of him at this point, but he is dangerous with that Ed. And Ed is a character we've seen definitely be extremely relevant in this season of Street Fighter V with all the adjustments, going up against NL on Team UYU. NL, everybody knows NL at this point. He's had one of the most prolific careers in Street Fighter V, extremely dominant player throughout the seasons. I think even since season 1, I believe, definitely early season 2, he's been on the scene, tearing it up internationally and doing great in a lot of tournaments. 3-0. Ajax Fidelity. 3-0 over NL.
And I feel like Ajax, he 3-0'd a lot of the idiots that like to say, oh, but this guy's been around for 500 years playing Street Fighter. Don't matter. Don't care. Run my set. That's what Ajax Fidelity is pretty much showing that his mentality is. At what point are we going to realize? I think that, to me personally, as far as answering that, so it's not just rhetorical, Street Fighter 6, people are going to be very surprised, man, how good people like him is going to be. And yeah, bro, like, so look, anybody who's complaining right now, about 5 or anything like that, please get ready. Like, get your drafts going early, because you are going to be losing to 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 16, 15-year-olds that are super godlike, and surely it's going to be, oh my God, this game is just too easy. So easy that you can't win, and you're going to keep getting your ass beat. And no disrespect to NL, because that's a great guy. Shout out to my guy Gunn. And it's only his first set of the season. I believe that he will cook up for the rest of the season.
I think he'll warm up. I think NL, we've seen that in the past as well, where he's maybe had shaky starts before warming up. So I definitely still expect a lot of things from him and UYU. I mean, from all these teams, right? Early in the season. But that said, we have had a lot of good action in Street Fighter League USA, but we also have Street Fighter League EU. We're 2 episodes deep into EU, and there's been a ton of interesting action out there. I feel like the first big storyline is another upset. I feel like this is another similar David versus Goliath situation. I'm looking at Reason Gaming versus Gamers Origin, and the reason I think this is so interesting, because Reason Gaming, to me, I don't want to disrespect them, because I think they're all amazing players and great people. But once again, this is a situation where I think
you thought somebody gonna get their ass beat when you got to say they're great people.
Well, they're great people, and actually they're low key the favorites in a little bit. But I think some people at home, I think the Twitch monsters would have been like, oh, they're about to get their ass beat. They wouldn't know, because to me this is like the squad from the UK that isn't the initial like name brands, right? We don't have any Problem X in there. We don't have the 4 fills. But we have Soundboy, MQS Shivs, and One Step Layered. These, to me, are the players who, if you've been paying attention in the past 2 years, you know how nasty they are. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like people won't be like, oh, who are these guys? You know, because they're going up against Junior Leo, Luffy, Valmaster, Akanu. Seasoned players, even from previous Street Fighters, who've been prolific. They've been offline. They've been on camera. You can see who they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like people who don't pay attention just going to go on Legacy and be like, oh, this is the squad. And these are the people who even are they, right? But now they showed up and they beat some ass. And now you got to know who they are. The big upset, which is not even an upset, MQS 2-1 over Luffy. MQS is actually Luffy's demon. It's funny to say that, but MQS, very strong Fong player. He plays the perfect character because he plays a troll character, and he's a troll IRL and Twitch chat everywhere you go. I met him at Evo, and I couldn't answer a single thing he said to me because I know it's always just a joke set up so that I have to dodge it in real life. You
don't want to say what type of joke, but I know exactly what type of joke you're talking about.
He's always setting you up for something. He's setting the traps in game. Yeah, he's setting the traps in game and IRL nonstop. And he's kind of Luffy's demon. He's actually got a lot of tournament wins over Luffy. So he wins 2-1 over Luffy in that set. Shivs goes down 1-3 to Valmaster in the anchor position, so it goes to sudden death. He switches to the tried and true Laura, first to 1. So you're talking about like NL should go back to Cammy instead of Luke. I was happy to see Shivs and the first to 1. Say, screw Monot in the first to 1. You know, I'm going with Laura. Time for you to guess real quick. And he wins the first to 1 sudden death after losing the set 1-3 to secure the team win over Gamers Origin. And I think that's just a big upset to start the season off, showing that pay attention. You don't just assume you know how the record's going to go with these players, because a lot of people have been working under the radar, under your nose, and you just haven't been looking at the results lately.
And on episode 2, what I believe is the best team on paper, Mouse with Problem X, 4 Fields, Broski, and Shax, they beat BMS with Mr. Crimson, Kills You, Link Exelo, and TKR. But as far as how the actual matches, the way that they played out, Broski 2-0 overtake TKR. That's one that I can see going either way. As far as a player skill, I even think like name wise and as far as their tenure in the game. And then of course Problem X versus Mr. Crimson. That's the big match that everybody will be excited to see. 2 Titans, maybe the strongest 2 players. It's got to be the strongest 2 players.
They're up there. They're the 2 names that you're looking at. I mean, both these teams, like you mentioned, I think these are like the 2 most solid names, like has the biggest name on them and the most solid backup squad, not just being carried by one person. So we're definitely having the Titans clash early right now for sure.
And then you had 4 Fields going up against Kills You, winning 3-1. I mean, bro, how do you have Problem X, 4 Fields, Broski, Shax?
That's the interesting aspect of Street Fighter League EU. I feel like Street Fighter League EU really encapsulates having all these people who have been having to beat each other up for years, and now suddenly they have to be friends.
These dudes went to war, and like I feel like in at least 2 CPT grand finals.
Several events, yes.
It might have been even more than that. Yeah, like definitely one of the dopest things to see is that they're actually teamed up. That's going to be extremely tough to stop. So Mouse showing just why they are the favorite to win that league so far with that big win over BMS.
I definitely think we're going to see a lot from BMS later in the season. However, I think the other storyline here is 0-0 Nation has won both their attempts at bat here. But is it really 0-0 Nation or is it Phenom Nation? Because Logan pointed out a super interesting stat. 0-0 Nation has won over Wild Blast and Team Go, and the last showing was really interesting because it was Phenom versus Akainu, and Akainu was using a lot of Dan. So it was super cool to see the Dan versus Luke matchup. Maybe opposite ends of the spectrum of what you would expect in competitive play.
Honestly.
And Akainu was holding his own with Dan. He was 3-1 in the anchor set. His Guile got washed. He went back to Dan, and he had some interesting interactions using V-Trigger 1, the 1-bar V-Trigger with the Fireball. He was able to charge it up and absorb Luke's blast and gain ground. It's actually a really interesting match to watch. But Phenom, he closed it out. Logan brought up in the trivia after 55 points total for 0-0 Nation so far. 45 of those are from Phenom.
Damn.
45 of 55 points for your team.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so Phenom is definitely doing the work. I mean, there's 10 points elsewhere. I think that was to Rickman's Barnett beating Vega Patch against Team Wild Blast. He was able to take that set, but the rest of it has all been Phenom in that anchor position and with the extra point as well when needed. So yeah, Phenom definitely doing work on this team. I'm interested to see if he'll be challenged because Phenom is honestly that strong that he could OCV all of Europe. Like he really, really could. But if that keeps happening, it'll come down to a first to one, right? If he has to be anchor position each time,
but it's
someone just has to beat him one time.
That's the problem, yeah. And that's one thing I like. I like that, man, like the sudden death I did. I love OCVs personally. I think they are extremely hype. However, this makes it, the way that the format is now, it forces your whole team to be more solid. Everyone has to try to carry their weight because even if you are super godlike, that sudden death match is first to win. I don't think that's by accident. I think that's by design. That's good thinking by whoever, designed the rules for this, because no matter how strong you are, you can lose that first to win, so you need your team to make it not go down to that in the first place.